On this edition of Native Report, we go to Onji-Akiing from the Earth Natural Resource Summer Camp.
We attend an evening concert put on by community radio station KBFT and meet two rising musicians.
And we interview former U.S. Attorney for South Dakota, Phil Hogan. We also learn what we can do to lead healthier lives and hear from our elders on this edition of Native Report.
Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux community, the Blandon Foundation, and the Duluth Superior Area Community Foundation.
Welcome to Native Report. I'm Ernie Stevens.
And I'm Rita Aspinwall. There are many summer camps for parents to choose from for their children. Camp Onji-Akiing is a summer camp where Native American youngsters explore potential careers in natural resources. The camp is a collaboration between the Great Lakes Fish and Wildlife Commission and the United States Forest Service.
Nestled among the old-growth forest on Michigan's Upper Peninsula is Camp Onji-Akiing. This camp is like any other with many activities for Native youth to take part in, but it is much more than that.
We have a cultural camp. It's called Unji-Akiing. Unji-Akiing means from the earth. We started in 2009 with 9 kids, and it's grown. Now we have paid staff, we have junior counselors, kids that were campers that want to come back every year and be mentors to our younger campers. So we have a full staff now of, I think, 92. Also, Unji-Akiing partners with the Forest Service. So Glyphwick partners with the Forest Service to bring this camp. It's a collaborative effort. The mission of Camp Unji-Akiing is to create or help to foster this youth leadership network. We started this camp in hopes to foster connections to the culture and through traditional ecological knowledge to get these kids to pursue natural resource careers and to go back into their communities and strengthen those roles.
I've always wanted to go to a camp in my younger years, and and back in the day we just didn't have an opportunity, didn't even know this was available. We started off with 9 kids from Lac du Flambeau, and then established it to what it is today. 50 plus kids today, a variety of kids from different tribes, not just all Chippewa tribes, Menominee, Oneida. It doesn't matter, it's providing that service for our youth. What we're trying to achieve here is to accomplish something bigger and better so that these young people and these young men and women can be leaders in the future.
Campers explore natural resource careers and Native American treaty rights while building leadership and environmental stewardship skills. It's not uncommon for campers to return the next year, and for some of them, they may even return as counselors.
I came here in 2009, basically that's when it all started pretty much. And I didn't want to go away. I was always dependent on my parents and family. And it was a weird feeling being away from them for a week. I never was really that far away. This is going to be year 7 now. I was a camper for 3 years, until I came into high school and became a junior counselor. This year I'm a counselor too, it's my 2nd year. This camp has really showed me that I could be more independent on myself, and showed me that it led me on the right path to what I want to be. And I started wanting to be more in the criminal justice side. And I found that Glyphwick has an enforcement division, which made me want to be more of a game warden. So I'm working towards game warding and conservation officer type of field.
This camp provides a lot of opportunities, like our career fair. Me being 16 and able to talk to colleges now, There are colleges that come here and it's really helpful. And Glyphwick, because I go to this camp and I'm so involved with them, I'm looking for their internships when I'm 18. It really showed me how to get out of my comfort zone. Cried a lot the first year. Didn't want to come. My grandma worked for Glyphwick and made me. But I'm really glad she did. Kind of a family now. You meet kids and you don't want to leave them, and you just hope you see them next year. It gives you the extra push and the boost of confidence. Like, you get one thing done at camp that you didn't think you could. Like, the boys are making their own drumsticks, the girls are making their own chokers. You just do a lot, you get more involved. It taught me to get more involved in my community.
The activities for the campers range from team building exercises, doing the ropes course, to fishing and archery. More culturally relevant activities are learning canoe safety when harvesting wild rice, constructing a drum, and choker making.
It's been really fun so far. One of my favorite activities is archery. Another one of my favorites, tied with archery, is fishing. I've also learned of safety skills with a canoe, and recently today I learned how to use a pole for wild ricing. I've always been one for outdoors activities, but there's not much I can do at home, so I'm usually inside. So whenever I get the chance to learn something new, I'll always take it.
When my mom first told me that it was like an outdoor camp up in the UP, I was already hooked. Ojibwe is not my tribe, and this is mainly Ojibwe related, but I always enjoy learning more about ancestors in the past, and I've learned that similar traits from both Ojibwe and Wyandot, my tribe. Just from the elders of my tribe, I've compared and contrasted, and I've learned that these tribes are pretty close, being in the Northeast. We've learned a lot about the importance of tobacco and how you need to give back to the Creator for all these great things like chopping up wood over there. You need to lay down a bit of tobacco just to say thank you for keeping us warm at this fire. And just a few little cultural things that we may take for granted, like gathering wood.
I think we see the success in our camp because we keep getting more interest every year for kids that want to come. I mean, they come here and it's a family, and we treat it like a family. We eat family-style meals. We take turns cleaning. We take turns supporting each other, whether it's, leadership or team building things where some kid's scared and wants to go home, and other kids just kind of swarm in that don't know this child and accept them into their circle.
When we were growing up, my grandmother was a language teacher, and she had said that there was very little books on tradition and knowledge. It was all by talking and speaking and doing it. And that's one of the things that this camp is doing, is it's providing hands-on experiences that Chippewa and other nations that we do as we build things, we make things, we cherish those things. This year we're making a drum for the camp. We're making bigger and better things for these kids to say, hey, I have a handprint into this camp, and I want to come back when I'm 30 years old and see where that drum is. And if a kid shakes my hand saying I made a difference for him, that's just one person that I can say I did just like my father did for me.
I was in the grocery store, and a woman came up to me and introduced herself as Ellen. Dr. Vinio, can you talk about carpal tunnel syndrome? I'm afraid to have surgery. Sure thing, Ellen. The carpal tunnel is a very tight passageway in the wrist on the palmar side of the hand. 9 tendons in the median nerve travel through the carpal tunnel, and the transverse carpal ligament goes over the top of them. There's no room for any swelling in there, and everything pushes on each other, and this puts pressure on the median nerve. The median nerve provides sensation to the thumb, the index finger, middle finger, and half of the ring finger. If it gets compressed long enough, the thumb and those fingers can get tingly and numb or clumsy and can cause achy wrist and forearm pain. Carpal tunnel syndrome is the most common nerve entrapment problem affecting about 1 in 25 people. It is more common in women between 40 and 60 years of age, but can affect anyone who does lots of repetitive movements. Other risk factors include being over 30 years old, obese, pregnant, and having a family history of similar problems. Rarely is any one factor pinpointed, and it's usually several factors together. The most definitive test to help detect carpal tunnel syndrome is an electromyogram, or EMG. This test sends a small electrical signal to test nerve conduction and muscles to see if the nerve is sending proper signals. The first treatment is usually wrist splints every night for 1 month. Many people flex their wrists at night, put them under their pillow, and dream about Patrick Swayze, and that puts pressure on the nerve as it passes through the carpal tunnel. I always tell patients they can wear the splints during the day, and maybe someone will buy them a cup of coffee, but the main benefit is during sleep. Movements that aggravate the symptoms should be avoided if possible. Typing is often one of the things that makes carpal tunnel syndrome worse, and ergonomic keyboards can be very helpful. Diuretics or water pills can be used for 2 weeks to help decrease fluid that can build up and make the pressure on the nerve worse. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory medicines such as ibuprofen can be very helpful. These medicines should be avoided in pregnancy. Staying with the wrist splints is probably the best idea. If those measures don't help, the next step is often a steroid injection into the carpal tunnel to calm down inflammation. Most patients get relief from steroid injections within the first month, and some may benefit for several months or longer. Usually, if more than 2 injections in 12 months are required, the next step is surgery. The transverse carpal ligament is cut during the surgery to release the pressure on the median nerve. It's not a big operation. Talk to your provider about treatment options soon, because carpal tunnel syndrome can be harder to treat if it goes on for too long. And remember to call an elder. They've been waiting for your call. I'm Dr. Arnie Vainio, and this is Health Matters.
Community radio station KBFT of the Bois Forte Nation in northern Minnesota is more than a radio station that airs programming 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is because of a legacy grant through the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund, the station is able to hold community events featuring musicians, authors, and other artists. Join us now as we attend an evening of music at the Bois Forte Government Center.
Community radio stations often air an eclectic mix of music, and on this morning, KBFT is where listeners will hear new music written by 2 rising songwriters, who will later play an evening concert for community members.
I work with legacy funds, and it's grants through Minnesota, and it's for arts and to put on art events and cultural events. My job is to research musicians, artists, authors, and so forth. There's so much to put an event like this on. There's researching, talking to the musicians, negotiating, and then after all that's set, there's contracts, paperwork that I have to bring to the tribal government here, and then after that, I have to promote it through social media and flyers and whatnot.
Tonight we have a show featuring Keith Sakola, Rain, Rice, and Sage Bond. A lot of this music is undiscovered. Of course, they're emerging artists, and each of them is, progressing in their own musical career at different stages. Of course, Keith's been around for a long time. Sage was just featured at, Gathering of Nations, Stage 49. And Rain has been up here, and she's been kind of friends of the community, and so we wanted to bring her back and allow her to showcase her songwriting as well as her singing.
It was at the Bois Forte Tribal Government Center where the evening concert was held. The 2 ladies who opened for Keith Sakola each have their own distinct style of music.
I'm headed straight for the castle. They want me. And there's an old man sitting on the throne, singing, I should
was 9 years old when I started to sing. I didn't realize it was actually something I wanted to pursue full-heartedly and like as a career till I'd say recently, like these last couple of years is when I officially started to put my faith into making it a career of mine full-time and stuff, so it's pretty intense. I actually used to play local shows in El Paso, Texas, growing up when I was 14, 15, 16, stopped when I was around 17. It was local bars. I went to, of course, concerts at school and stuff, solos and all that stuff. We have 13 shows booked from now till October, so that's about 2-3 a month. I really want to help, I guess, amongst our people, be a positive influence, a strong influence. And if that's through music, awesome. I would love to do that.
I started playing guitar when I was 9 years old, and I started with metal. I would mimic Metallica songs and Megadeth and Slayer. My dad is the one that taught me how to play guitar. He would be home and then sometimes not, and I didn't really notice when I was a kid. My mom, she was really supportive of my music. I have a hard time writing songs. It takes me like months. It could take months at a time, or I could just get an idea and then write probably in 5 minutes and then I'll have a song. I write from experience, so things I go through, music helps me cope with a lot of it.
Bringing talent to the Bois Forte Nation provides rising artists with an opportunity to advance their careers and also brings the community together.
This is like my calling, you know, because outside of my job here, I'm a musician, you know, and it all coincides. I can see what they need and I can help them out even more. And also I feel like I'm helping out my tribe and I'm benefiting their quality of life. You know, and I'm really proud to do that. You know, I want to put KBFT on the map. I want to put Net Lake on the map.
What advice do you give to your grandchildren, great-grandchildren these days?
Well, I have 6 grandchildren, and now I have 6 great-grandchildren, and we're raising them to be, you know, Indian, to be traditional in our spirituality, and because you have to have that, and then also though to be able to exist and get along in the non-Indian world, and but the heart is who we are as Indian people. You know, that's the strength. I truly believe that we've got to go back to our culture and our values, and that's why we have a lot of our young people floundering. You know, used to be, there were systems in place that kept young people, you know, from, I don't know, doing drugs or from acting out, but those systems are fleeting with our loss of our culture, and that's really just what disturbs me.
Phil Hogan has had a storied career. He was the U.S. Attorney for South Dakota, was the first director for the Office of American Indian Trust, and served as a vice chairman for the National Indian Gaming Commission. Next, Tad Johnson interviews Phil about key decision-making moments and legislation that affected all of Indian country.
The view from Phil Hogan's home in the hills of Black Hawk, South Dakota is commanding. His career has taken him from the hills and prairies of South Dakota to the halls of Washington, D.C., and back again. Phil retired in 2009 from a life of public service.
Went to law school in South Dakota and went to Kennebec, South Dakota to practice law. That happened to be the hometown of Jim Abner. And While I was learning how to practice law, representing Lower Brule and Crow Creek tribes there along the Missouri River, Jim Abner, who was the lieutenant governor, ran for Congress, and as the local kid lawyer, I helped campaign, and he was elected. So he asked me to be his chief of staff. Then Jim Abner in 1980 was elected to the United States Senate. President Reagan was elected. South Dakota needed a U.S. attorney. I had Jim Abner's support, and I was appointed to be the U.S. Attorney for South Dakota, which may be the best job I ever had, and served in that capacity for 10 years, from 1981 to 1991.
It was around this time when the Cabazon decision was about to be rendered by the U.S. Supreme Court, and there was talk about legislation on Capitol Hill regarding Indian gaming.
The chair of our committee was Jim Rosenbaum from Minnesota. Jim is a great lawyer. I don't know that he knows that much about Indians, but he learned. And the knee-jerk reaction in the Justice Department, I believe at the time, was, hey, that's gambling. Well, that's not good. We're going to be against that. But we were talking about it in our subcommittee, and I said to Jim Rosenbaum, you know, Jim, tribes have really got it tough these days. They need more economic development opportunity, and gambling might work. And Jim, who's Jewish by heritage and identifies with persecuted minorities and has strong feelings, picked up on that. And together, we then, the subcommittee, I think kind of turned the Justice Department in the right way with respect to supporting the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act. And it's been a great blessing for Indian country in so many ways. One of the first things you notice in a lot of Indian communities is they walk with a little more spring in their step and a sparkle in their eye, because now in their communities, the tribes are somebody. They're important economic players. You look around the neighborhoods and you see clinics, you see schools, you see economic opportunity that didn't exist before those gaming revenues came along. In many places, like Pine Ridge, the main thing it doesn't make millions of dollars to be distributed. It gives jobs to people that didn't have jobs before.
As a member of the Oglala Nation, Phil did a great deal of explaining and educating his colleagues in D.C. about Native issues and federal Indian law. Phil served as the first director of the Office of American Indian Trust. He capped his career of public service by being the longest-serving chairman of the National Indian Gaming Commission.
When I left the U.S. Attorney's Office in 1991, I was appointed by Secretary Manuel Lujan to serve as the first director of the Office of American Indian Trust. That office had not been going before, so we organized that. The mission, or one of the missions of that office, was to, in effect, sensitize the whole Department of the Interior to the federal trust responsibility, and then beyond just the Department of the Interior, but all of the federal agencies that work with tribes to kind of turn that up, and of course to raise an awareness about where there were failures in terms of looking after the trust assets for the tribal members. Then I got a call from the Clinton administration. Secretary Babbitt needed to appoint a Republican member of the National Indian Gaming Commission. They were looking for an Indian Republican former prosecutor, and that was kind of a short list. And so that sounded like a good job, so I took it, and it was a real, I had the opportunity on the Indian Affairs Subcommittee and now on the commission to have a front row seat with respect to the getting off the ground of the great Indian gaming industry. The regulation of legalized gambling is basically a three-legged stool. You have to first of all look at the backgrounds of the people that are involved, that you license to work casino. You only want decent people doing that. Then you have to make sure that the rules are fair and square. Fair to the casino, fair to the bingo hall, fair to the players, and that they aren't cheating one another. And then you have to follow the money. You have to very carefully track those proceeds from the time they go in the slot machine or blackjack table till they are eventually distributed. And I've read the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act, and I swore to uphold it as well as the United States Constitution. It's not a perfect document by any means, but it says there will be federal oversight, there will be tribal regulation, and we wanted to make sure that that rail was in place to give the firm foundation that tribal gaming needed. And if for some reason there's a problem, there's somebody to call. They can talk to the tribe, of course. If there's a compact, they can talk to the state. But NIGC is going to be there as well and try to provide that assurance, and I think it does.
For more information about Native Report or the stories we've covered, look for us on the web at nativereport.org, on Facebook, and on Twitter. Thank you for spending this time with your friends and neighbors in Indian Country. I'm Ernie Stevens.
And I'm Rita Aspinwall. We'll see you next time on Native Report.
Rita Aspinwall is an enrolled member of the Fond du Lac Band of Lake Superior, Chippewa, and is an ICWA social worker with Fond du Lac Social Services. Ernie Stevens is a member of the Oneida Nation of Wisconsin and is a film and television producer. Production of Native Report is made possible by grants from the Shakopee Mdewakanton Sioux community, the Blandin Foundation, and the Duluth Superior Area Community Foundation. Partial funding for this episode of Native Report is provided by the citizens of Minnesota through the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund.